Okay, well, in what might be termed as a happy accident, we'll see. We'll see. Forgot to set this one to unlisted, and since I was scrambling so hard to get things all out there, I decided, I'm not gonna go relist it and do whatever. So this one's public, and I'll set it to unlisted after the fact, and it'll be I guess a test, I suppose. I don't know how things. Who knows how things are working, but I didn't quite get enough. Didn't get enough of our workshopping yesterday of regions and areas, and I had some more ideas, so I wanted to work them out. I've got two windows you'll see open. One of them is Worldographer. I'm in the Worldographer 2025 alpha. I didn't update it, so unless it's doing some kind of super secret update, it's the same version I was using before. I just generated a map on the kingdom layer because I'll get into it shortly. I just filled it with blanks. I thought we'd put some in. The blank, I don't know if there's a dark light mode I can change because it's really dark. You really can't. I can see nothing. Um, I mean, I guess I can. Man, somebody with better eyes than me maybe can see what's going on. I could just barely make out two shades of black. So let's do something with that. So we'll throw in a. Whoa. Okay. I noticed. I think I put farmland and it just put. Oh. Huh. Okay. So I'm just clicking in. I don't know if that's a feature or bug or what, but I just clicked on that and then it gave me. It cycled through a few different things, which is nothing, just green. Which should be that one. I think is that not the same? Oh, wait a minute. Interesting. Anyway, that's what I wanted. So just to set up, I'll throw some in there, and then let's put some. Let's see, some woods. Sure. Let's throw in. Oh, I don't know. What do we got here? Not hills forest mix. Yeah, we'll use one of those. We'll do a hills forest mix. Say like that. And then we'll put in maybe some normal hills. Wait, oh, see, look at that. That didn't give me hills forest mix. It just gave me. Interesting. Interesting. Whoa. No. No. There we go. Maybe that is a bug. I'm not sure. I guess I really don't need behind that. You know, that's even more. That's even more than I need. Where's that blank? Is that blank? No, that's not blank. How can I just delete it? No. Oh, let's. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm up here. Select. Delete. All right, because I'm just gonna we'll make a little hex flower here. Use a little hex flower, and then we'll go that. All right, so there we got. Okay, that's fine. And then we'll do Garshk. Let's see. We'll put some kind of grasses over there. Right? Which one's classic flat grazing? That's fine. Grasslands. Fine, fine. Maybe we'll put. Oh, let's see. Where's some swamps? We gotta have some swamps. Everywhere's gotta have some swamps. Was marsh, a moor, classic. We'll use some. I can't remember what the difference. I know there's a difference between a marsh and a swamp. The moment I don't care. Sorry, swamps. Sorry, swamp guys. Don't care. We'll put some more woods here. All right, so there we have. Hey, you didn't. Did you delete? I thought I selected you and deleted you. You are deleted. Interesting. Oh, you know what? Because it had a blank in there and I got rid of it. So now it's actually a little bit different. All right. things we're learning. Things we're learning here as we go along with the alpha. Okay. So what I was thinking of, right, was when we do terrain in our own maps, we don't tend to do we don't tend to go uh, top down. We tend to go bottom up. Whatever our lowest level is, we'll generate that, and then I don't even know if we really do, because certainly when you have a hand drawn map, I don't think. I mean, I don't think I've ever gone and said like, let me zoom out. Pretty much that whatever that hex map is, that's the scale. That's just kind of my working scale, and that's all there is to it. Tools like Hexographer or Worldographer in this case, Worldographer, aka Hexographer 2, and other apps. Though I don't know if any other apps do this, but anyway, Worldographer 2 gives you this, or Worldographer, the Worldographer series of apps gives you this capability of moving up levels. So here I'm on the kingdom level, and we can go down to the province level. I think. Can we? Maybe it's not giving it to me. Maybe I should have done that a different way. You know what? Do I need to... Hold on a minute. Oh, I guess that maybe this is what it is. So if I come down to province, I need to generate... Didn't I just do this? Yes. Sure. Okay, there we go. And now let's see if I go up. Bam. All right. And this I guess illustrates in a way what I'm talking about here. We get on one level, we have this very kind of clean, and when we went through and we're looking at the Worldographer Alpha earlier, right, you have a clean level, and then you kind of come down, and that level blows up a bit into all this other stuff, which is generally more or less a mixture of these levels. Interesting that it sort of explodes outwards. It doesn't keep it to those hexes, but that's fine. And we can see here that our middle hex, yeah, it was marked as farmland, and here they've kind of looked at it and said, well, you have farmland, you have grassland. They're doing something here with, hey, what are your neighbors and what are you, sort of thing. And my idea was, well, the thought that I had was, can we leverage this if we're not using Worldographer, or if we are? And does it help us at all to look at it? Because in essence, we can look at it and say, all right, when we're on this higher level, here we're looking at areas. And then inside this area, remember, an area is just one number of hexes, obviously, where everything's hexes. But that this on this level, this kingdom level hex is an area. And and then we drill down into that, and that hex actually contains, we could call them local hexes if we wanted to do hexes all the way down. A local hex. And then the local hex, would be our smallest, the most zoomed in we're going to be is right here. Does this help us at all? And I had a couple of thoughts, because I thought maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But it's an interesting kind of workflow for folks who are, because we were talking about before, if we go back and apologies if I'm covering ground from yesterday, we looked at, which I have over in this window on Ouija, this idea of using using regions, and a region being a bunch of areas, an area being a bunch of individual hexes. So in other words, each one of these hexes, what we're looking at in Worldographer right here, that is a single hex. The larger hexes would be an area, and then if we zoomed out one level, we might look and say, okay, this hex flower here at the kingdom level, and zoom up, that is a region, right? So we can look at things and say on the region level, and then we can make some notes or mechanics based on the region level. Then we could zoom in and say, okay, for each, whoops, no, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. For each, oh, what? Uh-oh. Oh, no. I zoomed out. All right. Okay, there we go. Whew. All right. And then, so we can make a region wide, which would be the hex flower in the center here. Then we could do for each an area within that region, we can have a similar sort of nested element, and then we can have at the most local level yet another nested element. And one of the examples we used was in using an idea similar to the flux space article that I've talked about a couple times, where you have a number of locations. Maybe some locations are immediately, they're sort of well, I'll used to use the flux space things. They talk about shallow and deep. The shallow ones are the first ones you're gonna find. Then you get to deep ones. You can't really start finding deep ones until you found at least one shallow one. So there's a little bit of, okay, you have to kind of keep digging. If you go into a flux space room and you just search once and you find that shallow feature and then leave, you'll never find any of the deep stuff. You have to at least make at least one attempt to keep digging. If you make one attempt, it's not guaranteed you'll get to one of the deeper spots, but you'll start to, as you continue to dig in, as you continue to delve into this flux space, eventually you will find all the spaces. And in that case, once you've found everything, then you've fully explored that space. And I like that. I've dealt with things similar. I like the way they laid it out. I don't know if I like the shallow and deep just in terms of for wilderness, but essentially that's the same. It's the same concept, and we can apply it to an area by saying, instead of us worrying about if one area is this hex, which is filled in with I don't even know how many hexes of our lowest level, instead of saying, well, I got to do this flux basic for each individual local hex, we can instead talk about the area, and then we can have stuff be generated from a list. We have a list, so we have some creative control over, okay, hey, these are the things that are possible here. It's not just on a whim, but it's now also not kind of a railroad experience where we're determining each step what they're doing, but depending on where they go and what they do, they might, on one playthrough, they might get a spot. Different spots will show up in different places, and when they've kind of figured it all out, then, hey, they've explored that area. Even if they haven't touched every hex in there, that they have fully explored the area. And then the other thing we talked about on the stream yesterday, was for wandering creatures. You can have the same thing. You can kind of have nested tables. You can have a regional table where you can put a lot of the most basic things. Yeah, we got our bears and I don't know, antelopes or wolves or whatever, and then or other creatures, maybe owl bears, dire wolves, whatever other creatures we know are pretty much over this entire area. Then we can say, okay, but in this area, which is this swamp, then we can throw some swamp creatures in there. And then if we have something special, like in this particular spot right here, well, we can have something kind of unique in there. We can all nest that together, so that if we don't have that stuff made yet, we don't have to create it. We can kind of wait and see. And if we have it, then we can use it. And that way you can make use of the material you have, but you don't have to start off so granular. So we did all that yesterday, and that's great. That is fun. But I was thinking about this worldographer model. Oh my gosh, how did that happen? I lost what? What did I have there? I think I just had more woods. I'll make it a lighter woods. Or actually, no. You know what? Why would I want to? Don't we have a woods? We got where's like a savanna? Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. And now I'm going to regenerate the province based on the following level. Kingdom. Province. Yeah, that's fine. There we go. We got our area back. Okay. So something that Worldographer does, and we just did it right here, is you can create your map at a zoomed out level, and then Worldographer will use your internal, or will use your neighbors. I assume that my assumption here with Worldographer, not that it's super important, but I would bet that if I only had one hex here and it was that farm hex, that would probably be wall-to-wall farm on the next level, because it has nothing to differentiate. It's like, well, it doesn't have any neighbors, so what assumptions can it make? Right? Or if I had this entire thing was just farm, it would probably be all farm. I'm not necessarily. I'm not going to get into the kind of algorithmic stuff about all that. But my point is that maybe it would be worthwhile to use, and with hexes, because our hex maps are already there, they are already abstractions. They are already things that kind of only exist to be helpers. That it wouldn't be that onerous to have 2 levels of hex maps in play. Maybe it would be. I'm thinking if you're starting small, it might not be. And I know that different things, I think some map packs I've seen, and I think, did the Judges Guild have that where they had two? I know I've seen different places, some of the templates have basically, here's your regional level and here's your kind of local level. And that's fine. But my thought is that, well, let's take, I want to give kind of an example. We're starting off here in 8. Oh, why did you do that? We're starting off here in 8 to 10. Okay, and let's, let me put a feature. What is this? Castle military, fort, castle, camp. All right, let's put, there we go. We're starting here in 810. Okay. And I like to know what's around. I like to know, it's to me, I kind of enjoy knowing what's going on around. Let me put another feature in here. No, not a feature. Sorry, a shape. We'll put a river in here because I like some rivers. I know they always make them so big. All right, we're going to put it in. No, is that not working? No. River color. No fill. Above. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, I see. I didn't actually. I will make it curvy, I guess. There we go. Curvy's that's kind of interesting. Actually, I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I like it. Let's just do a line. It's still too big for my purposes anyway. Gotcha. Bang, bang, bang. There we go. Okay. Now you gotta set the table, so to speak. So we got this adventuring area. This is our zoomed out thing. We know the party's starting here on the center of our hex flower, 0.008.010. That's not important. And we're gonna put what's some kind of lair or something, point of interest. Classic simple cave. We're gonna put up here. Right, so we know that there's a lair somewhere in this hex. We know there's a lair, but this is our zoomed out. We're at this kingdom level. We're at this higher level here. So we know this is basically pasture land, but pasture farming, whatever. It's settled. That would probably be my use for this. Hey, it's been settled. This little what do we call it? I don't know, estate, little vassalage, whatever. That's this thing here, and then whatever else is what else. And we know we're going to that cave. Now on this kingdom level, I get what I kind of like, which is that if I'm in here and I want to know what's around it, I get that sense of what's around it. I can talk about, okay, across the river you see some tree-covered hills looming. Like I know that stuff because I have it here. I put it on my map. I don't need to remember it. I don't need it. It's there. Oh yeah, I hear across the river a grassland sweeping out. Whatever. We see that stuff. We get that. Okay. Great. But for this, it's almost like, I guess the way to look at it would be like at this level, at this kingdom level, which would be calling it region. Maybe I should just call it kingdom also, just to match up. But this kingdom level, that's all I care about, right? For everything outside of these 2 hexes, this is all I care about. I just want the broadest of overviews of what's going on. I just want to be able to eyeball it. And if somebody says, I look to the south and past what is past there? Well, it's flat. Maybe I should put some. Oh, there was swampland there, and my swampland got removed. What the devil? Come back. No. Come back, swampland. There we go. All right, that's all I want to know. Oh, the swamps. Maybe I give it a name. Okay, we got this. All right, I got it. I got it. And maybe once I get here, I'll want to fill in some more just to get some more, again, of that backdrop. Well, what's beyond there? Well, there's that beyond there. And that's a way of you being able to build out your hex map. You can just keep doing that. As you sort of get into a new area, as you come to the edge of what's known, you can fill out. Hey, Ian. As you get to the edge of what's known, you can fill a little bit more. But we're on this kingdom level. We're zoomed up. We are not at the lowest level of abstraction. We are at this level, which is giving us, okay, zoomed out view. At this point, we're just getting some background. I'm just getting just a broadest sense of what's out there. But for anything outside of of our main interest, which are these two hexes, the hex with the settlement and the hex with the cave or lair or whatever we're calling the dungeon entrance, I don't require anymore. I don't want anymore. Now, I'm going to zoom down here, and I'm going to have to recreate this again. Oh, it did it for me. Ho, never mind. No, it didn't do that. So let me generate province. No. Kingdom. Province. And you know what? I'm going to change it down. I don't want it. No, I'm not going to change it. Never mind. I'm going to leave it at 6. Why does it keep wanting to zoom in? There we go. And I'm going to put a border around this just so we could say, because it's giving us extra stuff, which is confusing things. It's like, why is our river just stopping? That's because it's at the edge of what we were doing. Let's do a border. That's fine. And yes, I want it to, yep, snap. Oh, line. No, yeah, polygon. Does that work? Snap. 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 Just going to do this just for my sanity. Otherwise, so this red area, this is ultimately our play area, right? We're not worried about anything else. There we go. Okay. Hey, RPG Grandma. Oh, RPG Grandma, if I ever get up a regular computer up and running, definitely looking into some useful programs. Oh, cool. I didn't know you were computerless. It should work pretty well if you have a laptop. I don't know. Yeah, if you're on an iPad or something like a tablet, probably not. But I definitely would put Worldographer on your list. This is the alpha, so do not take it as being any issues I run into are because I'm using an alpha build of their new version. And I'm not special in that regard. You can download it yourself for free right now if you want to check it out. But just because I might run into something, just kind of good to point out. So here's our adventuring area in red. We got a river runs through it, so to speak. Tablet. Yeah. And now we got our areas. And so here's our castle. Here's all our stuff. Can I move? I don't think there's a way to move because I'll probably move. Notice also I put everything in the center of the hex, which we might not actually want. That's okay. We should be able to move it somehow. There we go. I'll have it be, on the river. And then do we want to move the cave? Oh, there's kind of a more mountainous area. So yeah, let's move the cave down to down there. There we go. So now we've zoomed in, right? And now, as I mentioned, all the ones we're interested in are these two right here. These are our primary zones. I don't care about these. So we're using Worldographer. It's doing it for us. But what I'm suggesting here is that what we could do is put, do our hexes. Oh, look at that. Boy, it made it huge. Do our hexes over on this level. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's kind of cool. Sorry, it's just that the Worldographer kind of moved the location of on this map. It's not perfect because it overlays the numbers, the hex numbers, but at the same time, it does make a better approximation of where the things are in the hexes. I'm down with it. So that we've got our big area here, but we're not going to worry about it. And we can use, if we're using this kind of regional and area thing, we can use the regional wandering creatures. We can use the regional, if we have any kind of regional flux space stuff, we can use for that. And then we only need to zoom down and deal with the areas that we're actually concerned in doing. So what I'm trying to get at here, and I don't know if this is making any sense at all, I'm trying to get at here is some kind of efficiencies, right? I like to kind of have an idea of, hey, what's around me? Maybe to set up for later, maybe just whatever. I just want to have it as a backdrop. But if I'm down here, I'm looking at and going, that up there all of a sudden translates to a big amount of hexes. If I'm using the scale, and I would probably, for my thing, I would probably use 2 or 3 child hexes in here, so this would make this a lot less. But you can figure, whatever you think. If this is maybe this outer hex is a 36 mile hex, and so you end up with 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, because half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5, 6. Right. So yeah. So you end up with 6, kind of like that. However you work. Or I might even do 6 for this and then 3 smaller on the inside. These would each be 1 mile hexes then. Point being, it's a little bit of having your cake and eating it too. Hey, I can describe in some level a bigger space. So I can have that. I can have it in my brain. If I'm thinking about, well, where is the coast? Maybe I want to think of some bigger questions. Maybe I want to think about, well, hey, where is the coast in relation to X, Y, and Z? I can kind of plot that out a little bit, or I can figure out like, oh yeah, we're in this thing. But I don't have to worry about, or if it's possible, hey, I'm not going to worry about that stuff. When I'm getting into the nitty gritty, I'm just going to worry about these 2 things. I'm going to worry about in here, and then what we can do is use, kind of like Worldographer's doing, we could set up some tables. And I'll just do one here. We could just set up some tables, for example, that say like, I don't know, if we're in I'm just going to use this settled area hex, that we could roll 1d6, and we can have a 1. We can have some forest, 2 pasture land, 3 isolated farmsteads, farmsteads, 4 river, 5 settlement, 6 fortification. Right? So we can have established that this is settled, and then we don't have to worry about it until we decide this is where we're going. And then once we get in there, then we can do something. And if you're a solo player, this might work in some way for you, is then rolling, say, oh, okay, what's inside here? Oh, there could be one of these things. Forest, pasture, some isolated farmsteads, a river, settlement, of fortification. RBG Grandma says they have an Avalon Hills map to fill up. Which one? Are you doing outdoor survival or a different one? Because those are some big maps. And then I'm trying this polar orange vanilla seltzer for the working man. So, and we can go, and let's just for giggles. Oh, outdoor survival. Yeah, the old favorite, outdoor survival. do I want to roll a bunch of 6-sided dice? I don't, I need to get more 6-sided dice. I've got some, but I wouldn't say I have a bunch. I definitely have some though. So I can then do something. Let's see, I'll just roll these. Well, I got 4. And I'll start. I don't know where to start. I'll start with this one. So I got, let's see. I'm just going to put them in order. I got a 3, a 1, a 2, and a 6. So this has got a settlement in it, so I'm just going to leave that one. Didn't I get a 6? No, it's a 40. Oh, yeah, it's fortification. So I'll set that aside as fortification. Then this one, we'll do 3 isolated farmsteads. I'll just make that one of those for right now. There we go. 1, what was 1? A forest. Like that. And I could keep filling this up. Again, I would not use this many. Thing number 1, I would not use this many. But I can kind of fill that up, right? But I don't have to fill that up right away. I don't have to feel like I need to fill up goodness knows how many hexes this is. I don't need to do that. What I would even, I could even have like just a big, especially if I'm doing this by hand, right? I could just put in like here, this whole area here is just grasslands until I figure out what's exactly inside. That I can go through and do that. This whole area is just wooded forest, and I don't care about anything else until I actually get inside. And then I can start filling out. And I can do the same thing. I can have another one of these. This one I think was wooded. Yeah, this was hills, wooded hills, I guess. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Where is my text thing go? What the heck happened there? No. Stop. Windows, what are you doing? Somehow all my text things went away. I'll just duplicate. Duplicate. Okay, and then this one we'll say is a wooded hills area hex. And we say we got, all right, forest is great. I'll just erase these forests. River, wetlands, grasslands, hill, wooded hill, and then a rocky hill. Something like that. And I could, of course, add weights to these if I wanted to be less random, because I think if I do this one, and let's say I just work on this hex over here, I think this will probably be just too sort of rando. But if I got 4, 5, 2, 1. Oh, I can start kind of in the middle. 4 is grasslands. Put that there. No, not that. Grasslands. And what I see, 5 is a wooded hill, which is already. Nope, actually, that one wouldn't be a wooded hill. So I could do that. And then 2 would be a river, which I'd have to put in later. So I could just put in some water as a note. Something like that. And then 1 after that is more forest. Yeah, that's, come on, worldographer, work with me here, hey, no, how about you? Oh, anyhow, I think you get the idea. Hey, Sam. Hey, Michael Fraker. No, in this case, so Michael Fraker asked about the 6-mile hexes. No, it's not really I'm just doing it out of convenience and because I didn't feel like messing with the units once I started making the maps. It's not really, it doesn't really matter. It's This isn't like it isn't a real map. It's just to kind of maybe illustrate something. Um, but you could so it could be whatever you want. It's I'm really looking at it. Really, the thing is that's important about this is that this would be each one of the larger hexes would be that area. If you watched yesterday's stream, or I don't know if you caught it, talking about areas and regions and hexes as a way of layering complexity, layering prep work, a little bit of taking a more of a top down approach to building out your hex crawl, your hex map. Really more of your hex crawl because your hex map's going to end up looking at whatever it looks, but using more of a top down approach to it. So instead of working from the bottom up and doing each one of these individual hexes from the jump, we might say, hey, let's start at this level, have just the very basics of the terrain in here, and then when we need to fill in this lower level. I mean, Worldographer did it for us, so otherwise I would have had it be totally blank. But what the sizes are in miles or leagues or blah 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 that doesn't really matter. It could be whatever you think of it being. Though, for me personally, I'd probably have something like the 6 mile hexes and then 3 mile interior, but obviously that doesn't work because these are way too many. I could probably do a new map and try to change it from, say, 3 in the lower one to 2 in the lower one. In fact, we could try it. Let's try it. Yes, I'm sure. Let's do a new map. New World Singing Map. Gonna do it, and I'm gonna let's start small. Sometimes I find, and I guess we could play around and see what happens here. I find that Worldographer it doesn't do great if you lower it too much. Well, we can do 50 by say 25. I don't need all that, but just to generate a map. And then we'll put in, what did we have before? We had some farmland. And then we had some woods. I think I had a couple of wooded hills. Maybe some plains. I had some swamp. I think maybe some woods. Like that. Something like that. No problems, no derailing, don't worry about it. Now if I go down to province, I'll set it to 2. There we go. There we go. This might be a lot more reasonable. Though it's even more confusing. I kind of, one thing I like about this view is you sort of have one hex that's kind of the center. But then it almost has this like a diamond. Feels like the facets of a diamond, and I'm not used to looking at it like this one. I'm looking at more than one. In any case, maybe I should change it to 3. 3 might be better. It's a good test. Let's try 3. I don't know why it put us way down there. There we go. That looks hex flowers within hex flowers. Right. So basically, we can take these and we can say, okay, you got hill. We have settled area. We could throw our mansion in there or our settlement, and then we do it. But the point is that we can start off at the kingdom level, do a lot of our work, and then say, okay, I'm only concerned. So here I'll do this a little slightly differently, right? So we have our overall area, and then I say to myself, obviously I would do this in a different way if I was doing it for myself. Say that for this adventure or whatever. Whoops. For this, actually, I'll take polygon. For what I'm doing, I really am only interested in these 2 parts. That's it. feel like that's still too big. Oops, no. Back. No. What are you doing? Let's try this again. Let's make this smaller. I've got this bigger map, and I think, yeah, this is good. And I know that down the line, this is kind of the area I want to be in. At the same time, this kind of swampy, whatever area, or mixed, I guess at this point it's less swamp, it's more mixed forest and grass. And these areas, but these are my two I'm concentrating on here. That means now I can drop down into the province level. And again, Worldographer automated this for us. But now I can think about, instead of having to figure out if this is the ultimate, my local level, I'm not going to worry about these. I'm not going to worry about them at all. They can stay whatever. Now, but I am going to want to fill in what's going on in these two. And I'm going to say that because I know at least partly what I'm doing, that there's a, put it over here, there's the adventuring location is there, and where the party is going to kind of be operating out of, is that a castle? Yeah, is here. And then I'll do what I did last time. I'll put the river in that I forgot to do. And let's see, we had a river going, it's kind of on that same borders, but now let's just say it's going like this. And then it goes into the swamp kind of thing. So we got this, and now I can just worry about this stuff. Now I have this other thing here. I have some very generic information here if I want it. If I want to, or the time comes, I can use what we did up here. I can use this level. Say, oh yeah, look at that. You know, there's this thing over here and this and this. But I can concentrate my efforts down into where I need it. And I can leverage that stuff if I need it. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't even know if this is really going to be helpful. I find the process really interesting for me because it's part of that thing of like, one of the issues I think with hex mapping in general, especially if you're hex mapping piecemeal, is that it's kind of hard to get things that make a lot of sense when you can't take advantage of the information around you. When Hexographer or Worldographer, I should say, is generating these different levels, you can see here what it's doing. You can see exactly what it's doing, which we talked about earlier on. But we set these 7 hexes, we gave terrain up here. Then it takes that terrain and extrapolates them together. So you get, okay, some farmland ends up here. Well, I would probably change that because I think I'd probably all be on one side of the river, but that's me. Whatever. Okay, we got forest and there's woods, so there's probably some forested hills and some forest. So there's some crossover there. There's some crossover this way, everything's kind of crossing over. And I think a lot of times when you're generating a hex by a hex, a local hex, maybe I should say, by a local hex, you either have to come up with a whole bunch of tables and try to do some of that mathiness of, okay, well, it's hills, but I'm next to hills, so I'm going to add to this hills, or you can generate more than you need, more than you want, or you can just generate. You can either generate everything at the start, right, which is one way to do it. Which I think I'd probably, if I had to pick one, probably just be my preferred way. You can use some kind of complex. If you're using an app, it's not that complex because Worldographer does it with a button. But if you're doing your own, you have to have some kind of tables that are going to figure out, or some kind of math equations. We're going to figure out, well, if I've got forest next to the hills, what's my next hex? Is it forest? Is it hills? Is it forest to hills? Is it a rocky hill? Kind of what is it? Or you have to live with the fact that you might end up with kind of a patchwork with things next to each other that don't really make sense because it's all random. Or the other way, which is kind of like we're doing here, is saying, hey, in each one of these hexes, we're going to kind of say, if you're in a wooded area, then this is what's happening with in a wooded area, kind of thing. But how do you know that when you're not in there, right? And that's kind of, as I'm struggling to kind of make this make sense. Hey, Rune. Well, appreciate you joining. And yeah, you can slip back to the start. What I'm trying to say here is the advantage you have is if I do my basic hex map at this level, I can then, whether I'm generating, ultimately I'm going to generate each hex on the fly. Let's say I've decided that, you know what, I don't want to prep a whole area. I just want to do my hexes on the fly. In this case, I can generate on this level firstly, which if it's a bit of patchworky, that's actually okay, because these don't represent just a mile or 6 miles all next to each other. They actually represent a higher level. In this case, if my ultimate, let's just say if my ultimate, my bottom level of resolution is 6 for each one of these, then we're talking 6, 12, 18 mile hexes for these larger ones. So now it's okay if it's a little bit patchwork, because once you zoom out, you're going to see, you might see, it might be all right to see, oh, there's forest and there's grasslands and there's whatever. It's like, okay, well, we're on 18 miles. Things are going to resolve like that. And then we zoom in, now it makes more sense to us. So I can kind of have the best of both worlds, where I could say, hey, you know what? I just want to generate this one hex, and then I'm going to go in there. But rather than have to do that a bunch, rather than having to worry about hex neighbors and things like that on a local level, I can keep that. I can do the principal generation at that higher level, and then when I need to, zoom in at the lower level, and I can do something more granular. And if I want to do this on the fly, this part on the fly, I can. I have the context of the things around it that can help it make sense to me. And I know that this is grass, and I can kind of play around with that, and then I have that kind of added context. There's still going to be some of it, which I think is always the problem, that there isn't a great, I don't have a great solution for. It's kind of rivers. Well, what do you do with rivers? I don't know what to do with rivers. If you look at something like when I looked at what was it, the search for the Nile, I forget the name of the board game now, that was finding the source of the Nile. It does something kind of interesting, which I think could work along these same lines. What source of the Nile does is, let me zoom up here. It says essentially, it's the map's at kind of at sort of this level, and it'll say something like, for this region, we know there's a river exiting here, or the coast is here, and there's a river inlet here. And maybe on the other side, in the case of source of the Nile, it's the whole continent of Africa. Let me see if I can find a map real quick, actually. Hold on a second. Source of the Nile board game map. Ooh, there are some. Hold on a minute. We've got some. Is there a good one that's... Yeah, this might do it. Yeah. Yep. Hold on. Are you going to let me drag things over? What the heck? Hold on a minute. Oh, goodness. What are you doing to me? I'm just trying to get... Oh, that's too small. Hold on a second. No, I had a good map, and then I lost it. What did I do with it? There's this one. View source. Just want to drag you down. I don't know if it's Chrome or Windows. All right, I'm just going. Oh my gosh, what are you doing to me? Yeah, let's do this. Hold on a second. Bear with me. There we go. See what source of the Nile does. There we go. What source of the Nile does, and it again. What source of the Nile does is, you see here, it's got the coastline, and the coastline is fixed. It's the coastline of Africa at the time that these expeditions were taking place. Things along the coastline were well established, and we're talking from a European white scientist, explorer, whatever thing, not necessarily what local knowledge and whatnot. Okay, so you take it with a grain of salt, but that's the thing it's simulating here, is attempting to kind of game out and simulate is this white European explorer point of view. So from that point of view, we know we know what's on the coast. We know what's at the, and this would be the edges of this region. Let's just say, if we're going to, we know what's on the edges of the region. We know that water comes out here and water comes out here. And in the case of the game, some things about the interior know, which is why some of them kind of come in further. What we don't know is about the stuff that's all blank. But the benefit that has is that even though we're creating these as we go, since we know that there's a river here, as you start filling in these hexes, if I zoom in, can I zoom in more? Yes, I can, but it really zoomed me in. Oops. Oh, hold on a minute. Oh, so if I'm in here, looking at this river, it knows, the game knows that if you're, or it has a bunch of, basically it has a bunch of procedures. It doesn't know per se, right? Because it's a board game. When you put your guy here and say, I am now exploring, you will input into it, because you're essentially running through the procedural generation, basically. Is there a river flowing in? Yes. And there's not even a choice that it could be flowing into a different hex. River is flowing into here. Yes, it is. So now the game knows that, okay, a river's flowing in, or rather, a river's flowing out, really, because the other thing, too, is that understand that the rivers are flowing towards the sea. So we don't have any questions of which way a river's flowing. Like in my example here in Worldographer, we kind of know the river's flowing west-east because there's elevated lands behind it. So if it's going through this kind of mountainy, hilly region here, we assume that it's going from that down. But it doesn't have to be, because the elevation could be going the other way, right? We don't know. Like, we might assume, oh, it's going from west-east, but we actually don't know. We have no idea. In a board game like Source of the Nile, we do know, because we know where the sea is. So we know that there's, what we can say for absolutely certain about this particular hex here is there's a river flowing out. And once we know that, then when you're going through and doing the generation, the random generation, the procedural stuff, is you can't possibly, it's just going to tell you, hey, is there a river flowing out here? And you go, yep. Then we know that there's, okay, so the river either starts here, either there's going to be a lake in this hex, something or and it'll ask you questions about the surrounding hexes. It'll do that stuff and make sure that rivers are preserved. The one hurdle with a lot of this stuff is, how do you preserve rivers and whatnot? But I will say that if you start at a zoomed out level and you're rolling and rivers are a terrain and you have those in here, then you kind of bake it in. That becomes sort of baked into when you zoom in a level, oh, we're out here. Yeah, I know that this river's coming through. So on this higher level, okay, we got this river. We rolled it, we stuck it there, whatever. Then we know, even if we don't know exactly where the course is, we can say we can make the same kinds of decisions, the same kinds of procedures that Source of the Nile is. We know that a river comes through these hexes somewhere. Don't know where it is, but we can't end up filling out this hex without there being a river coming through it. And you could probably even say, we know what face or corner, and maybe we might say for rivers, they're always going through a face. Like, we can even say, like, oh, it's coming from this face, then it has to be, something else. So we can kind of make those kinds of adjustments. So I think there's a lot, and again, I don't have a clear procedure for this. This is kind of why I do these streams, to kind of spitball and sort of work through the concept of it. Kind of what it would look like. But I think it might be valuable, because I think I understand, and I this is for me, right? I like to have an idea of what's around me. I don't necessarily need a lot, or not. I say me. What's around the party? I just kind of like to know. I like to know. It gives me ideas. It gives me just things I like to know, and I'm gonna have to try generate it sooner or later. So why not have it? But I don't need a lot, and I don't need the granularity that I need for the main adventuring area. At least where I assume that's gonna be. I don't need a lot. It's kind of like at that point, it's a backdrop. It's like you go from a backdrop where it's like, okay, you know, all I'm doing is the backdrop. That's it. That's what these are outside the red. That's just backdrop. It's just scenery. It's just there so that if I take the camera and put in the long lens, or we take out our binoculars, our looking glasses, whatever, our spy glasses, and we take a look. Aye, there's forest over there. Okay, but it's just there. It's a sheet. It's a sheet with a painted background on it. It's a matte painting. Got it, right? That's all it is. And that's all I want at that point. Then I can come in and I can zoom in here and say, okay, out here it's just matte painting, whatever. And then in here, now I'm going to kind of figure out what's really going on. And like I said, Worldographer doesn't let you do it, I don't think. But if I just had this as a template, I could literally just lightly in pencil or just make a mark and just put a big icon in these big hexes instead of filling in all the little hexes, which might either fool me into thinking that I've done something. I could keep those as empty and just have a big thing that says, yeah, marsh or whatever. Just put a big one in here in pencil. And if I were doing this, if I had done this in like a drawing program instead of Worldographer, I could have probably done. I could just put a big icon in here saying, yeah, this is swamp or whatever, marsh or whatever this is. This is grasslands, and this is it. And maybe I'll do that as an example to show, because the idea here is I don't want to think about. I really don't want to know. I just want to, it's kind of beyond. And then once I need to zoom in, I can erase or delete that symbol, and I can start filling in the smaller symbols. Like, okay, now they're coming in here. Oh, they decided to cross the river by this castle. Okay, now I do need to know, is this just grassland? Is there something else, or blah, blah, blah? I can fill it in. So ultimately, what I'm going on and on about, what I'm blathering on about, is this concept of top down top down hex crawling, top down hex generation, just managing from a little bit of a top down view. Which things like Worldographer, right? That's what it does. That's one of maybe the most powerful feature it has, is that ability to do top down, to start from your world, generate a whole world, and then just keep zooming in, and then it can keep generating as you go. I'm wondering if that's an approach that would be useful for us with other things. I tend to think it would. I don't know what it would look like necessarily. If I were drawing this in a drawing program, I could have a big hex and I could have small hexes, and I could kind of hide the small hexes underneath the big hex with just a symbol and leave it like that and do it. If I were doing it with paper, I know there are some, I forget the name of, was it Hex? Hold on, let me see. Hex map templates. I forget the name of the place. It's got a lot of those. Hold on a second. Forget the name. Welsh Piper? Is that it? Hold on a minute. Let me go there. If you're aren't familiar with Welsh Piper, they've got all kinds of templates and stuff that you can download for free. So it's got some different 5-mile kingdom settlements. What's the kingdom level one? Is there a picture? No, that's not it. The BX options. Ooh, what's that? Oh, class builder. Nice. Mapping resources. What's that? I don't know. Stay on target. Stay on target. All right, so they've got this hex templates. Yeah, so something like this. If I was going to, whoops. Sorry, sorry. I really just want, can I open this in a new tab? There we go. So something like this, right? If I were just drawing, I could put in pencil, well, let me see. Hold on. Let me copy image. Let's go here. There we go. All right, I could draw something and I could, can't really zoom in here, right? But I could put, all right, here's just going to be trees, hill, grass. And then when I wanted to zoom in, I could say, okay, obviously this is going to look terrible because of this, but then I could say, hey, you know what? Castle, little trees, a river runs through it, that kind of thing. Cave, maybe little mini hills. Does that kind of make sort of sense? Right? I could kind of have my cake and eat it too. Maybe this. Just do the edge there. And then if we move into here, right, then I know, let's just make this hill. Let's just say this is a lovely valley. We'll give it some happy little trees. Happy little trees. Whoops. No, just zoom in all the way and then we can. What happened to my map? Oh, there it is. There we go. So then we're kind of zoomed in here, right? So we can have this sort of abstracted version. Of course, they have even another level. Maybe I put some mountains. Oh, the dragon tooths. The dragon tooth mountains are over here. And maybe we could say, yeah, and I know that river flows, whatever, into here. Kind of thing. And then continues to flows outwards like that. Hey, Horga. So we've got detail where we want detail. We can have the overview where we want that overview. Remember, this is just backdrop. So we got our detail. Oh, gosh, I didn't mean to. I don't know how to modify the. What is that? Color and thickness. Anyway, I'm just going to go. What's that? Oh, that's a highlighter. Yes, we have our detailed area in here. And then we can have our general overview area here. Right? So we kind of get a little bit of that best of both worlds. Of, hey, right, I want to know. I want to know about these things. Maybe I've got world building and whatever. Maybe I know that we're on an island and whatever, right? But I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I definitely don't want it to feel like I need to fill in everything. So I can use, however I want to do it, but I can kind of use a big icon and say, yeah, we know generally speaking what that is, but we know there's all kinds of things and they're not going to worry about it. Yeah, we're saying about the highlighting. Yes, this is absolutely very inefficient for that, but I'm not trying to do anything serious. If I had thought about it maybe more ahead of time, I could have set some stuff up and used a vector art program like Affinity Designer to do that. It's just illustrative, so don't care. Hey, RPG Grandma, thanks for hanging out. See you later. It's gonna be quitting time in a minute anyhow. In a sec. Oh, I see. That's what it was. But the idea here is, right, zoom in for the detail where you need it. Rely on the further abstracted view when you don't need it. And so you can kind of have the best of both worlds. You can You can prep stuff to at a level that makes you feel comfortable. If this is a setup for you that makes you feel comfortable, this is kind of what I tend to like. But I know that I don't need all this detail. I don't need the detail of all these individual hexes for this out here, because this stuff in blue, purpley blue, is more or less just a matte painting that's behind whatever it is that is actually in play. That I just want to be able to say, yes, those are indeed mountains out there or whatnot. But really, we're going to be in here. And thinking about, we were talking about the regions and areas, and then I was thinking about Worldographer. I'm like, yeah, Worldographer kind of does that. Worldographer allows you to have those different levels and layer them on top of each other. I wouldn't want to do this all on one map, though I could, but eventually I'd end up erasing. I'd probably just want an overmap and then kind of an undermap region. And I've seen it. I thought maybe Welsh Paper had it, but I've seen it somewhere else who has regional map and then a more of a local map. Pretty sure the old Judges Guild templates have that, but I don't have those books in front of me. If I can dig them up, I'll find it. If you remember which ones have that. But it's kind of a similar idea where we're gonna say, hey, we're not gonna worry about out there until we need it. And then if we're also doing what we talked about yesterday of saying, or in the other stream, if you're watching these, the today and yesterday stuff don't make as much sense, where we're sort of using our stocking and doing our things at that higher abstraction level, filling it as we need to, that we can get a lot of use out of that. And then we may give us enough tools to hold off going full force into the weeds until we have to. Let's see. Jorge asks, what terrain icon would you put in a map scaled to the largest text on this map? Well, that's a good question. It looks like at this point, I might put a mountain in here, assuming that I put more, or maybe hill, something like that. We don't have that much woods. What you would want to pick is the whatever's the. I will look for the dominant feature. It's one of the issues. It's an issue. It is certainly an issue. Is maybe not the right word. It's a question. Right, and that's the problem when you end up working with maps that look like this. My standby map is you have all this stuff with the same terrain, and like, is this all wall-to-wall mountains? Maybe. I don't know what the scale is, but it's difficult. So I would always, concern might be the right word. That's why I always think also kind of start small, right? But if you're just wanting a backdrop, like, oh yeah, the red mountains, you just want kind of a big mountain icon here, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to figure out what's going on in the red mountains when they actually get to the red mountains, but I just want to know they're there. Or I've already established they're there because I've got, maybe I'm taking a map like this Middle Earth map, so I know that there are these mountain ranges and things, but we're over in, the campaign's all here. I just kind of want to, I want to reference those. So yeah, I want to kind of put them on there, but I'm not going to. All I want is the fact that, yes, they're there, and not so much about anything else going on there. Magnus says, for like a world hex map, one might have to just stick to political maps colored and labeled by faction. Otherwise, just whatever the dominant feature is. Yeah, there's no wrong way to do it. You could just have, like, here is the main mountain, and oh yeah, there's a range. Oftentimes the older maps, the ones, from someone's very pretty, like John's speed maps and whatever, they're trying to be more, give you kind of the feel for what's going on, and not necessarily exactly what's. I mean, there's no real measuring to be able to tell what's exactly how far from another thing. Anyway, One Ring 2nd Edition Strider mode series when? That's a good question. Well, I still have to do Moria, which I've been eyeballing it, so I think maybe it's going to be soon that I will delve into Moria. So maybe I'll have to do a Strider mode in Moria. I don't know, but I do want to do it. So yeah. Soon, maybe sooner than you think. Also, I want to do the in terms of solo, I want to do the Pendragon solo from the box. Jorge asks, but is that dominant in terms of what the majority of small hexes contain, or is it dominant in terms of the most important thing in the area, such as a city, dungeon, or other game relevant thing? Well, if there was a city or a dungeon, that would get its own marker that would be present on pretty much every level of the map. Yeah, give or take size. If it's a world map and there's a village, I'm not going to put it there. But if it's probably smaller than that, I would put the village there. So that's kind of in addition to. So those things, if we switch back to Worldographer, which I think I accidentally squished over in this window, right? Here we have that castle. And the castle's still there. And so is that. And that's different than the terrain. So you have two things. You have kind of the terrain, and then you have your point of interest. And those exist separately. And Worldographer or something similar will make that easy because they usually have them on different layers so that you have your terrain layer, and then you'll have your item layer. Obviously, if you're drawing this stuff on paper, you just kind of have to know where they are. Put them in pencil so you can move them if you get them in the wrong place. Raid really likes the free League One Ring books. Yeah, they're good. They're good. I agree. I mean, I look. I don't want to. I always feel like I come across as a free league shill, but their stuff, the quality's really good. I want to play more of them, and I hope to do that. And maybe Moria will finally get. I don't know if there's anything for the solo player in Moria. Doesn't seem like the place that a person want to go by themselves. But maybe I'll have to do Strider mode because Strider did make it through the dark of Moria by himself. So maybe we'll just have to do it. But yeah, their stuff tends to be really good. Yes, you can use multiple. You can make multiple maps. Right, I'm always trying to figure out how to cut down on work. You can make multiple maps. I think if you keep your area small, let me see if there's I know there are some hex map templates that have one for a regional level and one for a smaller level. I thought maybe this was it, but I'm not finding it. Let me see if I can find one. Someone's been kind enough to put one up in image form quickly. Ooh. Now these are very cool, but not what I'm looking for. I've seen them where they have kind of it looking something, not the one I'm thinking about is not quite like this. Maybe I'll just have to make one, right? Where you have kind of one of these, and then each one of these you would break off into its own sub map. You're welcome to use transparencies and all kinds of stuff, and I'm trying to help you not do that much work. Unless you've got that stuff. If you're someone that has transparencies and things, then hey, more power to you. Maybe I'll just have to do one myself because I can't remember where the one I saw, where it's from. I can't remember. Raid, I'm pretty much I'm not that experienced in Worldographer either. I mean, I use it a bunch. I just don't use it in an advanced way a bunch. I tend to use the layers, though oftentimes, sometimes not even that much. It's really powerful, and it was funny when we did looking at the alpha earlier. That was kind of one of the things. Was like I'm testing these features, and I don't really know how they should be because I don't use them just because there's so much to it. I just enjoy using it for the simple bits, and I hadn't even really used much of the complicated bits. What is this? This might be maybe similar. Something like this is what I think I was thinking of. Where you could kind of write in. No, this is not quite it, actually. It's similar in the layout where you had notes and things, but not it, actually. I don't know. I'm trying to see if I do a slightly different word. Will it work? Well, this one's an interesting one. So this one's got, I guess this is for that really zoomed in, we're using squares. So kind of if you're doing keep on the borderlands, you could square it out using this inside of hex. But something similar to this, kind of. But you might have, this would be the interior of one hex, and then you have another one of these pages that would have, a few hexes. And so you would reference them both. Magnus says they wish there were better tutorials for Worldographer and Campaign Cartographer. Campaign Cartographer for sure. I have such aspirational interest in it. I just can never. I end up just being frustrated with it, and I know it's based on CAD, and so it's really really powerful, but can also be really really complicated. And I have never gotten to grips. I've owned it. I've had a license for it forever, and I just every so often I think, yeah, I'm gonna learn campaign cartographer, and then no, I don't. Would be good. I know that Inkwell Ideas has been putting out a bunch of videos on the new Worldographer version 2025. I guess that's what they're calling it, or Worldographer 2. So you might want to check in their channel. I don't know. I don't know if they're all tutorials or just showing off features, but sometimes as he's walking through the features, obviously as the walkthrough kind of shows you how to use the feature. So you might find that there, some older ones. I should probably wrap my brain around, then maybe I could do some, but I'm not a power user. And if you've watched some of these streams where I'm in your Worldographer, inevitably someone in the stream will be like, hey, you should do that. You should do that, or you're doing that, or oh yeah. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Because I literally, I use the simplest. I lean on the simplest stuff a lot and hard, but I have rarely delved into some of the more powerful features. Magnus says, I think their brother uses CAD. Yeah, it might help. Like, I don't know how close it is to other CAD ones, but I know it's got this. It is based. I'm pretty sure it's based or built on top of kind of CAD. So maybe if you have someone who knows CAD, some of that knowledge would come through. I mean, you could do beautiful maps with a campaign cartographer, and I see all this stuff, and I was like, oh man, I want to do that. And they have all kinds of symbol collections and things. But yeah, for me, trying to get to something that actually is there, or to get to an actual thing, I've been unsuccessful at the moment. But that doesn't mean one shouldn't try, and I will certainly at some point try again. Just not today. That day, but not today. All right, folks. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to set this one to unlisted. I meant it to be unlisted because I'm doing this kind of week where I'm trying out unlisted stuff. We'll see. I'll look and see. One thing is I'll get to see this one, how it worked compared to yesterday and the day before. I might do, so one of the things, I guess because we're at the end and you can log off if you don't care, and if you do care, you can stick around for a minute. One of the things that I've been pondering, and this is kind of this doing this stuff is sort of highlight to me. I don't want to say for whatever reason, it just, folks, to the extent of my community, of which you guys are part of, it really has amalgamated around YouTube almost entirely. It's very, very much YouTube focused. So that's part of why I think, as I'm trying to navigate trying to navigate this thing about how YouTube sees a channel and treats a channel, and just in terms of, for folks, right? All this stuff. Part of why that's become is because I've noticed that, man, like what I'm doing and YouTube, it's just interlinked to a big degree, which is why, hey, when I was, at Twitch, right, and nobody or almost nobody finds me on Twitch, kind of thing, and other places. And I don't know how this is going to work, because anytime you take a community and you ask, maybe whatever, you're always looking at small percentages of the community, right? So if I put a link, join the Discord, right? Only a certain amount of people of the broadest community, who many folks who probably watch one or two videos and maybe don't watch anything else, but they subscribe to the channel, so they're kind of in it, but they're not really in it, right? That might even be the majority of people who are, you look at my number on YouTube and it says whatever, 4.18 at this point, K or something, whatever it is. There may be fully half or 2/3 that have interacted very little, may never interact again, but they've subscribed at one point and they've forgotten about it, or whatever. Maybe once in a blue moon they chuck on a video, and that's kind of it. Then you have each level. So each time you're kind of forcing people to go through a hoop or take another step, you lose another big bunch. So the first step is, hey, go to Discord or go to Patreon or go whatever. Like, there's a big chunk. Then if there's another part, like, hey, do this other step over there, and it's like another big chunk, right? And I think that's something that I'm just going to have to deal with in some way that, hey, there might be a bit of just constriction. Not necessarily that people are gonna unsubscribe or stuff like that, but just that the amount of interaction, I think, as I'm asking people to do different things, is just gonna drop just by the nature of it. And of course, some people just don't want to go to Patreon. Some people don't want to go to Discord. They don't want to do that. They're already on YouTube, right? Isn't YouTube enough, kind of thing? And I totally get it. But one thing that's kind of made me think about more is like, man, I'm really YouTube centric, maybe too YouTube centric. And I might try to do some other things to kind of not shake it up a little bit, but just be like, hey, come, let's connect outside YouTube, right? I have forums, I got the Discord, I got the Patreon right there. Other ways to connect, and a lot of folks aren't going to do that, which I totally get. Maybe some folks will. I don't know, but it might be, but because I think one of the responses to these things I'm trying is just like, well, just do what you're doing. But and that is more and more tempting to me every day. At the same time, part of it is for me, it's like if there's a positive to this, it's a little bit of just diversifying. Because if anything were to happen to YouTube or anything were to happen to my relationship with YouTube, like that's it. Everything's in this one bucket of YouTube. I didn't really mean it that way. It's just kind of how it happened. And it is what it is. And I'd rather, and I've seen, I don't think I do anything really controversial, but I've seen it posted in different help things with other creators where all of a sudden you wake up and your channel's gone and locked, and these automated tools that they have to try to, where you can protest your channel being gone, right, don't work. And then you got to hope that you can reach some human. I think oftentimes now people go to Twitter because I guess YouTube has kind of a community Twitter account that seems to be a little bit receptive and will do that. But, that's you're kind of, and not that I think that's going to happen, because like I said, I don't do anything particularly controversial. I pretty much keep to myself, doing my do. Yeah, I don't, as Ray says, I don't talk too much about WotC. Yes, I'm not, but you just don't know what gets a burr up somebody's butt at some point, right? Or just something else happens. So one of the things that I'm hoping is that it'll be a bit of a stumble, fumble, bumble as I'm kind of looking at stuff, and hopefully, folks bear with me. And, yeah, and Raid says, yeah, it's happened, right? There may be a channel that that, has had major YouTube issues. Yeah, they can literally come out of nowhere and just blam, you're been gone. So yes, having some backup, having somewhere else that folks can contact, and let's face it, like one of the things, and this is true, like I have the forums, right? The forums are mine. If there's anywhere, that's mine. I run that server. I pay for it. I don't have a physical server. I pay for, I pay for it being on a server somewhere, but that is all mine. It's the one place on this internet that I can say is mine, right? Discord, that's a third party that can end tomorrow, right? YouTube, that's Google. They could change it up tomorrow, right? That's stuff I don't have really any control over. I don't think they'll all do they're going to collude and do something all at once, but having that kind of a little bit of diversity, so that, hey, if something does happen, or maybe YouTube just becomes so onerous that people are like, I don't want to deal with YouTube anymore. Whatever, there are other avenues. So I'm trying to, part of it, the reason why I'm sort of going through this painful process of doing it is because I hope that one of the upshots is to maybe diversify how you folks can and do interact with me, to maybe make it so I'm a little bit less reliant on YouTube for everything that I am. Everything that I am is through YouTube. So it would be nice to kind of do that. I don't know if it's going to work. And the stuff with the algorithm, trying to figure out how either to make sure that people can get the stuff and it doesn't get buried, and how that then reflects with stuff. It's all a work in progress, but I appreciate bearing with me. Like I said, I meant to do this one unlisted also. Just forgot, hit the button too quickly. But we'll see what happens. But this will go unlisted, so if you want to find it again, you just have to go to the playlist. And I now have the podcast. I did set up a podcast with all these in it. I think I have 300 in there so far. I think I have over 600 live streams, and I put about half of them in because I just ran out of time, because I got to do them kind of manually. So there's about 300 in there now. So maybe the podcast can be another way that people can get in, and that'll give you another option to watch and listen to them also. Because I know that a lot of times, sometimes what I'm doing is visual, but oftentimes it's just my voice. And I know people found they'll put a stream or a video on the background while they're doing stuff, and that's just another way to do that. Because with the podcast, I guess you can also do it through YouTube Music. I don't use YouTube Music, so I don't know, but you've got a YouTube Music option, which I think in terms of like on the car or on whatever, just gives you another option to do it that YouTube itself might not. Because I know there's a thing like, right, if YouTube, it's you have to have it on, at least I'm like, if you can't turn off the display on your phone and still have it playing on YouTube, right? But maybe YouTube Music, it does. Works more like Spotify, where it'll play on your locked screen kind of thing. Raid says that the girlfriend has a Disney video game channel that she watches. Some weirdo copyright struck a dude because he didn't mention her channel when he was looking at her Reddit pictures of her Disney Sims game world. Yeah, you don't know. Like, I haven't had anybody come at me for talking about their blog post or doing whatever, but it can happen. And like, I do read throughs and things, and nobody's, I try to be very upfront with people about what I do and how I do, but you never know. I might do one and suddenly someone's like, we didn't want you to do that. Like, it really, like, who knows? I mean, that if I felt like something was going to happen, that probably would be where someone came and digged me for that. And you never know. You never know when someone all of a sudden decides to be a jerk off about it, even though they weren't a jerk off before. So, all that said, have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching, listening to this. Later, skaters. I'm out. Bye now.